Why am I holding this brush? So in my eyeliner, or the video where I talked about how you don't feel like you have to wear fox liner or winged liner or anything, like do your eyeliner the way that you want to, I did talk about eyeshadow placement. I realize that this is something that can be really, really difficult for people to understand, like where they should put it on their eye shape. I'm just gonna get it out there. I'm sorry to my hooded like lid people or people who don't have like a ton of real estate. Just to reiterate, I don't do makeup on other people. So the way that the knowledge that I'm bringing is only from doing my makeup and like my background in art. That's it. I apologize. So I'm gonna try to help you, but I don't know if I can. But what I can do is tell you where I place eyeshadow and why, which is what we're gonna do. So I already primed my eyes with my Anastasia Beverly Hills Eye Primer. Anastasia Beverly Hills Eye Primer. So the palette that I'm going to use today is Supreme Nudes by Artist Couture, Angel, Mac Daddy, Tiz brand. So this is the palette. Pretty freaking pretty, right? All right, the first thing I want to talk about is values. Values. I don't know how else to describe them. They're not really shades. They're not colors. They're values. They're like the amount of dark that an eyeshadow is, or a color is. So you can have two blues, right? We got like a light blue and a dark blue. Ow, those are different values, okay? That's what we're gonna be talking about. So when choosing eyeshadow, typically you want to start off with the lightest value first, then you build up to the darkest. That's going to be the best bet for blending. The crease shade is usually the lightest shade that you start off with to kind of start mapping things out, right? Your crease shade can be anything. It could be any color, whatever, but typically just to be safe, you kind of want to keep it maybe like a few shades darker than your skin tone, 2 to 3 maybe. If it's 1, I think it's like too chalky almost, but it depends. It depends on the color. If we're looking at this palette and we're using this as our beginner, I kind of want to use that, but I think it might be too light. What I'm gonna do is create my custom shade, and I'm going to, actually, you know what, fuck it. I'm gonna go for a warmer. So I'm gonna mix this guy, which I think is Nudist, I'm reading it backwards, and this guy, which I think is Transcend. Again, I'm reading it backwards. And the brush I'm gonna be using is Morphe M573. It's dirty, but I'm gonna wipe it off and everything will be fine. Yeah. So I'm gonna back and forth between these two, and this is way too hard to do, so I'm gonna take it down and do it over here. So when we look at my eye, again, this is gonna be kind of like redundant if you watched my eyeliner video, but if we look at my eye, you can see that I have this saggy lid situation, right? So I have like a lot of room to work with, but I don't have like a really, really nice tight eye socket, if that makes sense. So if I look down like this, or if I, flatten that area out, you can probably see that my eye socket is like here. So if I press right in here, or if I turn to the side, you can see like this is where my brow bone is, and then it goes in here, and then my lid, right? But when I'm looking forward and my face is relaxed, that gets creased over. Super fun. So important to look down into a mirror. And what I'm gonna do is define that area. So I'm pushing that area back in space by making it a little bit darker than my lid. And we're gonna start carving out the eye socket. That's typically what you're doing. Basically what you're doing with eyeshadow is contouring. That's all it is. So looking down, you can see where my like natural shadow starts. I'm gonna start deepening up that area. And placing a slightly darker shade there is going to push that area back in space. It's going to bring the areas that are lighter forward in space. It's going to help create more depth in the eye. It's also going to just kind of like lie to the world that I have these deep eye sockets that I don't have. Again, because I have so much room up here, I really like to smoke this out. So I'm focusing it above my lid, onto the brow bone, and then I'm going to slowly blend it up to my brow so that the majority of the pigment isn't up there, but it blends seamlessly. See how much of a difference just that makes? It pushes this area back and it gives my eye a little bit more shape. It looks less flat. All right, now, before I move on to any other part of the eye, I like to deepen that up even more. Going in with a slightly darker shade, basically like building up from light to dark in one area is going to create not only a more seamless blend, but it's also going to look much more three-dimensional. It's like a drawing, you know? Line drawing, fucking rendering shit, you know what I mean? If we look at this palette and you're having a hard time deciding like what shade to go in with next, it's preference, right? But if you squint at it, you can see the values of each shade a lot better. So you can clearly see that this is the lightest shade. Then it goes to like this one and this one, right? And then it kind of goes to like here. Oh, we already went there. Here. I'm leaving out the shimmery ones because right now we're working with mattes. We already used Transcend. We mixed it with a lighter shade, which created like our own, custom color. But the next one in the progression would be, what does that say? I can't read that backwards. Oh, Silhouette. And then obviously, I can't read that. Mink. I wanted to say Wink. Mink is the darkest. So now I'm going to pick up Silhouette on a smaller brush. This is the Morphe M456 brush, and I'm going to deepen up that eye socket even more. So I'm going to be keeping this tighter in that area. And this is where, especially since this shade is a little bit more cool toned, this is where we're really, really, really creating that shadow. So I'm holding my brush like this, which is going to make the line a little bit more prominent to begin with. Dude, this eyeshadow palette is fucking bomb. Anyway, then I can turn it like this, which is going to help me blend up into that. So the way you hold your brush is really going to make a difference. Just keep that in mind. All right, now if I step back a little bit, see how much this pushes this area back. We're really, really creating like, obviously it's a little bit more dramatic because I like to wing that area out a little bit, but we're really creating the illusion of a deep eye socket. Now again, I spoke about this in my last video, or my other video, whatever video that was, but my under eye situation. Thank you to everyone who's so nice about it. I just don't like it, that's all. I'm not wild about it. So I do have lots of creases. I got a lot of creasing under here, just natural creasing. It's my life, it's the way I was born. I'm not wild about that. It's not my favorite. So I like to push that area back in space, which makes it look much less obvious. So the progression is the same, starting off with one of the lighter shades and then slowly building it up. This is like a BH Cosmetics brush. Number 3, it's cute, right? So I'm just gonna pick up Nudist, this one right here, on the tip of that brush. And then this is important, you wanna look up for this. I'm not really able to look all the way up. I'm gonna literally just cover this entire eye bag with this shade. Now, depending on your preference and also like how much room you have to work with, or, I don't know what your style is, or how far down your like eye bag comes, you might want to smoke it out less or keep it tighter. I like to, really cover this shit. Do you see how making this area darker pushes that back more in space? And you don't really see those, like, you're not focused on those wrinkles, really. Like, it doesn't look like creasy and annoying. It looks kind of soft. Now, obviously, if you use a much lighter, more neutral shade, it's gonna look a lot more natural. This is like a warm color. But you can see the difference in this side. This is like, it looks creasy, it looks a little bit old. It looks kind of just like, it really emphasizes the fact that I have like more deep set eyes, and I don't love it. Now I'm gonna do something similar. I'm going to pick up Silhouette again, that like medium shade, and using my M507 by Morphe, I'm gonna focus that on the tip. Covering that whole under eye bag is what pushes that back in space, makes it a little bit less like all up in your face, but it also kind of brings my eye down a little bit, and it doesn't really like do anything to give it a lift or give it any kind of a real shape, So I'm gonna start by focusing that slightly darker or medium shade on the outer part of my eye. So right in here. So I'm gonna follow the lash line, but I'm gonna keep it a little bit tighter to the lash line, and I'm only gonna bring it like halfway. Now we're adding a little bit more depth, a little bit more dimension to the eye. Now this is kind of like bringing that attention up here, right? Clearly we're a little bit bottom heavy right now, so I want to start building up the upper part of the eye again. Now for the upper part of the eye, depending on what I'm doing on my lid, now today I am going to be using one of these shimmers all over my lid, probably this bomb ass gold one because it's so fantastic. So I really want to create like kind of a cat eye dark shade there. I don't even know what I'm saying. Once again, don't know why you listen to me. So I'm going to pick up Mink, which is the darkest shade in the palette, and I'm going to be using that M507 brush, and I'm going to use it. First, I like to place it like right there and just kind of like get an idea of what I want here. I'm going to start working it up here into the crease, but I'm keeping it nice and tight. So we're sort of following that idea that like when you put the slightly darker shade up here, it sort of starts to draw the attention to the outer corner of the eye. I'm going to slowly start to build that up. I don't want to take it out too far, but we're just kind of connecting, finishing that eye look. Now I'm going to focusing that color on the very tip. I'm going to kind of bring it onto the lid, smoking that lash line. So I'm focusing it like in this area. It's kind of like that. If you compare this eye to this eye, you can see that it gives a nice lift. It's soft. It's not a winged liner or anything, but just deepening up this area. And again, you can keep it as round as you want. I prefer kind of a more like, I don't know, smoky flick, I guess. But creating this shape sort of starts to create the illusion of like those flirty eyelashes, even though I don't even have mascara or false eyelashes on yet, you know? We're looking a little bit disconnected now. Now the lower lash line is looking a little bit too bare compared to the upper part. So using this little, no, this is a little, yeah, I guess I can use this. This is another BH brush. This is the number 11. It's just like a little flat brush. I'm gonna pick up Mink, the darkest shade, focusing it right on the tip. And I'm gonna use this to define the very outer corner of the lash line, connecting it up to the outer corner of the lid. And you can take this in as far as you want. You can focus it like very, very tight to the lash line. I'm gonna keep it just kind of on this outer corner to sort of help accentuate that lift. But the point is that we're connecting the lower lash line to the upper part of the eye so that they don't just look like two completely different things. This looks so unfinished, this area right here, despite there's nothing on the lid. This is starting to look a little bit more rounded out. All right, now I really want to go in with one of these shimmers on the lid, which is typically what I would do on the lid. Typically when I do that, I like to kind of leave like a significant amount of this on the outer part. So if I am going in with a shimmer, I want to make sure that I'm taking my dark matte in a little bit closer so that I can layer that shimmer on top of it so that there's a little bit more of a blend and you don't just have like, I don't know, some weird disconnect. You also want to make sure that you're bringing it in a little bit more so that like when you do blend on top of it, you're not like completely getting rid of the shade. So using my M507, I'm going to bring this a little bit more onto the lid. So now I'm going to pick up Opulence, which is this like bomb-ass gold foil. And I'm just going to use my finger. It's like coppery. Love that color. And I'm going to place this all over the lid, starting the, ooh, that's fucking bomb. Bring it into the inner corner. Slowly tapping up into the crease. And then tapping onto that line, basically connecting those two. Super bomb, right? All right, guys, that's eyeshadow placement. Obviously, this is like a very specific kind. If you want to see more of like along the lines of my like dude eyeshadow placement changes, whatever, let me know, because I can do something like that where I do it differently on each eye. Or if you have any specific like shapes that you want me to tackle, I can try and do that. But I hope that this kind of like cleared things up for those of you who are, I don't know, maybe beginners and you're trying to get like a little bit more into glam and you're just not really sure like where to place the dark shades or why. I am starving. So I'm gonna go, but this has been real. And I realize that I always end up with a look like this, but it's just like a go-to, you know what I mean? It's like what I do. Okay, bye.